Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I am Sean Okimale here in Abuja. Welcome to the program as we turn attention to the controversy surrounding the recently reintroduced 5% fuel surcharge under the Nigeria Tax Act 2025. While the federal government insists this is not a fresh tax, but a long-standing provision under the Farmer Act. But labor unions and civil society organizations are arguing that it is the first time Nigerians are being directly taxed at the pump. With inflation already squeezing households, questions remain about the 1 trillion naira in unpaid farmer funds and whether this surcharge is truly about fixing our roads on simply another burden on citizens. I mean, you can't contest the intelligence of someone like Zach Adedeji and what Taiwo Yedele has done in his committee. But the big question here is that can you wish away what could be the burden on Nigeria, on the average Nigerians? Of course, we do know that part of what is being said is that the discretion of the Minister of Finance comes to play. But the Minister of Finance has since come out to say, look, that is not in play just yet, and it is not in consideration as of yet. So what do we expect? Let's break down the facts and the politics of it, and perhaps the implications. We dig deeper into some of what has become major stories in the land over the last few days. First and foremost, my first guest tonight is a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, who is live for us virtually. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Falana, for joining us tonight on the program.
Thank you very much.
Give us an understanding. I saw the statement which you released, and you are saying that federal government should forget about asking Nigerians to pay any more tax. They should focus on what they are owing farmer, which is to the tune of 1 trillion naira. So in essence, it is the federal government that is owing, not the Nigerian people, is it?
My position is that by virtue of Section 14 of the FEMA Act of 2007, there has always been a provision, there was a provision that 5% users charge, that's the language, would be deducted by the government and paid to an account. 40% will be allocated to the federal government to fix federal roads, while 60% will go to the states, state agencies to fix roads, state roads. Unfortunately, the law was not implemented. So by 2011, the state of the roads have become so terribly bad. I wrote to FEMA to fix the roads. And I wanted to know how much have been collected so far between 2007 and 2011. FEMA wrote to me, replied to the fact that the government had never given them the money. And so, we now turn to the government. Why have you not done your duty under the law? Embarrassing the circumstance, the government transferred the sum of, I think, 832 million to FEMA to fix the roads then. It was a lot of money at the material time. We hadn't experienced terrible devaluation of the currency at that time. And the battle continued. By October 2022, Senator Bassi, the Senate chair on FAMA, disclosed that the federal government was owing 1 trillion. And you know what was being done was that the money was being deducted from source. In other words, it was built into the price by PPRA, you know. So the government was collecting the money, but the money was not remitted. this new tax will challenge the government to find out what happened to the collection of the money in the past, so that we can start with having the 1 trillion released to fix our roads. And then the government has said, we're not about starting the new tax, the fuel tax. We are going to consider other variables. So I guess the government wants to go back to the drawing table and ensure that it is not accused of multiple taxes or double taxation, because consumers will pay VAT for buying fuel to now have additional 5%. I think this is what Nigerians are complaining about.
So
and for what we just read today, is that the fuel taken from Nigeria, the Dangote fuel, is now cheaper in Togo than Nigeria. I think about 65 naira. So the government will have to review these developments and ensure that more hardship is not imposed on Nigerians.
Now, you look at what is going on, Mr. Falana. On one hand, there is the RAMFAC proposing an increment in the salaries and wages of political office holders, including the president's office, will be increased. That is a proposal. And there are those who are now saying, does this government have any moral right to increase anything or to put any burden or to take anything more from the Nigerian people, who are now heavily burdened about how much they pay on transportation, the fact that the money's in their pocket and the food on their table, the value of such have been drastically messed up by the state of the Nigerian economy?
Well, I would say that RAMFAC is not in a position to increase the salaries and allowances of public office holders without taking into consideration the fact that civil servants and other Nigerians are bearing the brunt of the economic policies of the government. To that extent, if you are going to have a review of salaries at all, it cannot be based on discriminatory basis. It has to be a holistic review, so that at the end of the day, the government will consider social inequality in the country, income disparity in the country. And RAMFAC is in fact trying to expose itself to some embarrassment. Because I am aware that in 2025, in the 2025 Appropriation Act, the budget of RAMFAC was ballooned almost to 3,000% level. 2, there is a judgment, a valid and subsisting judgment of the Federal High Court in the case of Monday Ubani and the Senate, Sarah and other civil society organizations and the Senate, to the fact that the salaries of National Assembly members be reviewed to reflect the economic reality in the country. So again, it has to be holistic. Furthermore, there are people in the National Assembly, particularly in the Senate, who are receiving humongous pension awards in addition to their salaries and allowances. 6, not fixed by RAMFAC, because Section 70 of the Constitution imposed a duty on RAMFAC to fix the salary and allowances of all public officers. That has not been done by RAMFAC. It's a matter of fact, this regime, this administration, has reviewed the salaries and allowances of judges upwards. Again, that is supposed to be the duty of RAMFAC. So I believe that RAMFAC is flying a kite to the fact that we have got a stage in the country where, in view of the dollarization of the economy and the devaluation of the national currency, we need to review the salaries and allowances of all public officers, all civil servants in Nigeria. And then, while that is being done, the government must also question the effect of its economic policies. And I'm going to challenge the National Assembly, both the executive and the legislative arms, to ensure that the welfare laws of the country are henceforth enforced. For instance, we now have the National Social Investment Program Agency Act that has now made it compulsory for the government to fund cash transfer, feeding of primary school pupils, Empower program, and the rest of them. Secondly, in the area of health, the government only allocates 1% of its consolidated revenue fund for basic health program for our people, which is inadequate. The federal government, the president has just ordered all MDAs to ensure that all public officers key into the National Health Insurance Scheme. The National Health Insurance Authority Act of 2022 requires that all Nigerians be covered by the insurance, while the federal government is mandated to ensure that all public officers at the federal level are ensured. The state government and the federal capital territory are mandated to ensure that other Nigerians in the private and public sectors are covered by the insurance. So there are other welfare laws that the time has come for the government to provide funding. For instance, you have the senior citizens, which requires the government to set up centers for senior citizens, those who are 70 and above, under the law. The government will have to fund that. All physically disabled people will have to be given education up to senior secondary school level. The government has also set up by law a Marjorie and out-of-school children. The commission will have to be funded. So there are many other laws that the government will have to fund,
Falana,
so that the government...
So I'd like to jump in. You were one of those Nigerians who were in the forefront of subsidy removal in 2012. You were very vocal
against subsidy removal.
Subsidy removal in 2012. And you look at what has happened to the lives of Nigerians, and those who debate whether or not the policy of the Tinubu government is in the right direction or not. The flotation of the Naira, the corridors, the foreign exchange corridors, and the removal of subsidy. There are arguments as to the manner in which this government has gone about it. And there are those who will be thinking that the electricity tariff, the tariffs that are being imposed on Nigerians, does it look, and now RAMFAC saying whatever they are saying, the issue of the fuel, 5% fuel surcharge has come up again. Is it a provocation by this government against the Nigerian people, or what exactly, or could it mean an insensitivity of the government to the Nigerian people? What exactly is going on?
Try to impress on the government or the authorities in the country. There's no way you can remove subsidy. There is no country in the world that has abolished or removed subsidies completely. Even leading Western countries like the United States of America, United Kingdom, France, and others subsidize electricity, subsidize agriculture, and many aspects of the lives of their people. So when the government say we're removing subsidy, actually, matter of fact, if I must say, it is IMF and the World Bank that insist that the government must remove all subsidy. We ask the government, develop the courage, muster the courage to tell these Western imperialist institutions that there is no country that has succeeded on the basis of the prescriptions of the Bretton Woods institutions. And that is why we have to review the economic program of the government. It's not by taking one, at a time. It has to be holistic. You cannot devalue the currency. You cannot dollarize the economy while you are also removing subsidies. And at the same time, you try to single out public political office holders with a view to increase their salaries and allowances. When you do that, you are provoking the people. So the government will have to, as I've said, in removing subsidy today, what is shared at the end of the month by way of statutory allocations has tripled what was shared before the removal. For instance, I think it was May 2023. What was shared by the three tiers of government was 655 billion naira. In July this year, it was 1.8 trillion. In August this year, it was 2 trillion. So the government at the federal and state levels, and at the state, local government levels, will have to reflect the increase in statutory allocation in the services, social services made available to the people. So you cannot, and that was why I campaigned in this forum that the government will have to be a full-fledged member of the BRICS, not a partner member. No, so that we can take advantage of the opportunities in that organization, whereby we can begin to ditch the dollar, promote our own currency right now in the government and outside the government. The dollar is the king in Nigeria. It shouldn't be so. A situation whereby the president was announcing gifts to footballers in dollars, not in naira, will have to stop. So we must promote the naira, strengthen the naira against the dollar, because the naira is the legal tender in it and not the dollar. As a matter of fact, it's a criminal offense.
Mr. Falana, let me
to
quickly
reject
the
naira.
Let me quickly,
it's a criminal offense under the Central Bank Act, Section 20.
Let me quickly.
So unless you stop people paying dollars, school fees in dollars, properties are being sold in dollars, gifts in dollars, and I dare say bribes are now paid in dollars. You cannot run an economy that can be said to be stable, an economy that will be in the interest of the people. Once you devalue your currency, particularly for an import-oriented economy, you are damaging the country. And that is why the government will have to review the neoliberal policies dictated by foreign economic interests.
Mr. Falana, a quick one, and I'm not putting you on the spot. You have accused this government of throwing in the whistle and in the music being played by these organizations, these Bretton Woods organization, and to that effect, it's the Nigerian people that are feeling the pinch. Whether or not in the long run these policies will amount to better life for Nigerians, but in the meantime, the kind of pain that some Nigerians are experiencing, there are those who will think, oh, let us weigh what is going on. Is this government on the right track? And I'd like to ask you, Mr. Falana, looking at all the indices, looking at what we saw in the last 2 years, compared to what it is right now, the policies of this government, and those who said that the Buhari government was a disaster economy-wise, but is the country better off today, are on the right path, economically speaking, than 2 years ago? Let's be frank with ourselves, and let's tell ourselves the truth. I know some people will be crying afterwards, whatever political parties they support, but let's look ourselves in the eye and tell ourselves, are we on the right track as a Nigerian people? Forget your political party affiliation. Are we in the place we're supposed to be? If not, are we on the right track, Mr. Falana?
In 1986, the Ibrahim Babangida military junta imposed on Nigeria the structural adjustment program taken by the same agents of destruction. And he said the economy was going to be the best in the world. Oh, Nigeria would be, like the best country. But what happened? For over 40 years, we have been treading the same dangerous path prescribed by this institution. And what they have done since then is to call government program different names so that our people are deceived. We are now told, as we were told then, that Nigerians should suffer a bit. At the end of the day, it will be boom for us. But all the time, yes, it's a boom for the ruling class or for the people. It's always a doom. And that is why Nigerians must mobilize this time around to demand for dividends of democracy. It can be postponed. It's no way you can improve the conditions of members of the political class to the detriment of the national economy. So that is why I am challenging my colleagues. This time around, take for instance, we are being told now that we are still implementing 2024 budget. As the government be advised to appreciate that the Appropriation Act of 2024 is a law which has expired. We should now be dealing with appropriation of 2025. So, and if you don't do that, when are we going to implement provisions of the Appropriation Act? Meanwhile, constituency projects are being executed by agents of legislators in the 2025 appropriation. But we are still told that we are still operating the 2024 appropriation. So we need to sit down. The government will need to go back to the drawing table and review economic policies that are promoting gargantuan poverty in the country. And that is what I have suggested. And we are going to mount prayer on the government, not just the federal government, state government, local government, to implement social welfare laws in our country. For instance, how we justify with our enormous wealth, with our enormous resources, that 18.3 million children are roaming the street. So we're going to take advantage of the Amajiri and out-of-school children commission to ensure that children are picked from the street and enrolled in schools. We're going to ensure that cash is transferred to the vulnerable people in the society, which according to a government agency, today we have about 133 million people that are multidimensionally poor. We must take care of them.
All right. Mr. Falana, quick one. I'd like to know, just in about 60 seconds, what INEC position on this issue of early campaign. And when I was talking to the INEC spokesperson, I think that to a large extent, there isn't anything like no provision of punishment as a basis for not exercising the power of a regulator on the operator, on the players who are the political parties. Anyone who is seen to have infringed should be taken up. And I don't know, what more do we need, Mr. Falana? Just a quick one, 60 seconds so that we can wrap up this conversation.
INEC cannot watch fiscals like want to file it. Section 94 has prescribed that election campaign begin 150 days to elections and 24 hours to the election. There will be no political campaigns. Section 95 empowers INEC to drop rules and regulations. The Constitution, paragraph F, part 1 of the third schedule, has empowered INEC, the Constitution, INEC to monitor campaigns in line with rules and regulations prescribed by INEC. So INEC has not, until now, brought out rules and regulations to stop this illegality. The law cannot cover all situations. The law drafters thought they were dealing with a civilized political class. No. Now that they are violating the law, INEC has a duty empowered by the Constitution and the Electoral Act to bring out rules and regulations. And by the way, INEC is required to charge some of these guys before the court. Let them come to court and say, sorry, my lord, there's no provision for punishment. Merely ordering them to speak. And if you fail to comply with the order of court, you'll be committing contempt and you can go to jail. So let INEC not be deceived into believing that we can have political campaigns for 4 years. It's not gone anywhere. So governance, is being thrown to the dogs. So we must, and there are other provisions that are being violated with serious prescriptions, including up to 10 million naira fine. Even your media house, cannot promote one political party to the exclusion of others. You cannot use state government officials cannot use any state apparatus, including vehicles, including media houses, to promote one political party or the other. There are serious violations that are going on. You cannot campaign on the basis of ethnicity or religion. That is going on. And there are serious punishments recommended by the law. So INEC will have to seek proper legal advice. Do the needful in the interest of the country.
Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Sean.
I appreciate it.